I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. We appreciate you guys joining us today for the preview episode of the Washington Commanders going to the Los Angeles Rams. And so we're going to get into that matchup. We are also going to begin the episode by talking about the big news, it's actually national news, that the Wizards and Capitals may be moving to Virginia. And so that's been a big deal. We're going to get into that. But before we begin the episode, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Comment as you always do. And K-Dot,
share this shit.
Share this shit. And it's good to see you again, boss. And why don't we go ahead and just jump on into it? So we got to begin with the basketball team. We got to begin with the hockey team. Big news. In 2028, as of right now, the Washington Wizards and Washington Capitals will be moving to Virginia, Potomac Yards, and Alexandria. And that is a bit of a big deal for the city because Chinatown, I think, is heavily dependent on the Caps and Wizards playing there because there are a lot of people use the term tentacles in terms of being able to go to the various bars and restaurants around the area. And so it helps economically to have the teams over there. And it is Washington, after all. It's right in the heart of the city, very easy to get to. So a bit of a big blow. There was a press conference with Ted Leonsis and Glenn Youngkin. Everyone loves that guy. And then we got Mayor Bowser coming in last minute saying, hey, we will use $500 million. Now, Ted Leonsis asked for $600 million from the city. We will give you $500 million. Stay here, please. K-Dot, as of right now, the team is going to be moving to Virginia in 2028. What is your reaction to it?
Barely anything. So look, there's a multitude of stuff in this, and I am going to get a little personal with it in a sec. But if I'm looking at this year from a standpoint of if I'm a fan of these two teams and watching them play, you could get a lot worse than where the location is that they're talking about, right? Like, it's convenient as shit. You're talking about like a 2-minute drive from the airport. You're talking about brand new metro access, actually multiple metro access, because you could do Crystal City, or you could get off at Potomac Yards, a new place, to do some walking, whatever the hell it is you want to do. It's mad close. Infrastructurally wise, like, traffic is probably going to be fucking hell, but that's more for the Virginia residents than it is for the DC residents. What the fuck do you care? And then, like, it's just, when you hear, like, the Commanders go out to, or the Redskins go out to Landover, you're like, God damn, that's going to be a trek. This is a few minutes away from where they were. Like, there is an aspect from a city pride thing that does feel extremely disappointing, especially if you know, like, Abe Poland's history, was the owner of the Wiz before Ted Leonsis, and what it took for him to get them from the what was the other name of the stadium that was in Maryland? I forget the name, but when he moved them back to DC, it was a huge thing. He took a loss compared to what majority of owners do, and knew that he was going to stake it. I want this here in DC. This is important to me. Even changing the name from Bullets to Wizards. Abe Poland was so involved in what it is the team meant for the city as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to see that kind of get undone by Ted Leonsis, and more than anything, just a selfish manner, right? Because, like, he wants these deals as far as what the stadium does, what the arena does. But what you also have to take into consideration is the discount he got buying the team itself because of the way that the arena structure itself was set up. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too, post. Like, it's bullshit. So from a Ted Leonsis just being a dude that was revered here in Washington, but the longer you go on, the more you realize he's mediocre to a bad owner, if you're being completely honest. You're at Alexandria Ovechkin championship. That's it, pretty much, right? Like, you lucked into one of the greatest talents that has ever graced a fucking hockey rink, and you had him. And it's even a disappointment because he only got one, right? So like there's an aspect of like you kind of failed as an owner. But I'd also say the city that Abe Pollin brought the team to is so fucking different than the city that it is right now that I've lost my. I'm doing this podcast from Baltimore.
Interesting.
I got gentrified the fuck out of DC. Okay, like the idea of what the MCI Center was a barren parking lot in the middle of Chinatown where you could actually walk around. It was in my old neighborhood. Where they built that up is less than 5 minutes away from where I lived, where I grew up. It was a barren parking lot that I remember we used to park in the puddles and gravel when it rained, muddy as shit, and you'd walk to the legit Chinese restaurants with the fucking pigs and the ducks in the fucking window.
I remember that.
That's what it was, right? And then what did they do? They took a CVS, slapped some Chinese writing on it, and it was like, it's Chinatown. Like, it was horse shit. So, like, the idea that I'm going to cry any fucking tears for DC at this point for losing the team when it's that fucking close, it doesn't impact really anything other than who I do feel bad for, which is a small business in the area. One of my main clients for my job, I won't name them, but they're a huge location right 2 blocks away from Capital One Arena. And they rely a lot on the traffic from people going to and from the game to stop by, have a few drinks beforehand, come play some games beforehand, or the people that just from an overflow standpoint, hey, after the game, let's go hang out and play some games and watch some other sports. I feel bad for them. There is going to be a net loss for those places in a few years. But post-pandemic, it's been shitty down there anyway. Like downtown has been needing to have a change because it's just not working the way it was. You can drive downtown DC and it is a shell of itself. There needs to be a reimagination of what that city is and what downtown looks like and what Penn Quarter looks like. We all know there needs to be more affordable housing in Washington, D.C. Maybe this opens up an opportunity for it. All the fucking empty places off of K Street, all the offices that haven't come back, why haven't they been turned into fucking residential areas or low-income housing? Like, cities are usually cyclical. And I was on one of those fronts where I got gentrified the fuck out. I'm looking now finally to come back into the city, but I'll be completely honest, I'm not really looking in the city as much as I was looking at an apartment in Crystal City right down the street where they're going to fucking Caps and Wizards are going to be playing. So, like, I just don't feel that. I don't feel, yes, there is a pride thing when it comes to the city, but I just think a lot of what we think of as Washington, D.C. is so fucking far removed now from what it used to be that there is, I don't feel that tangible feeling that I used to. Or I don't, if this was 15 years ago, I might feel very different than I do right now, which is just apathy.
Sure. And so I'm going to, thanks for saying all that, K-Dot. Appreciate it. And the personal element to it as well. I'm going to try and weave my way into the take because I think there are multiple layers to this. So there's Ted Leonsis, the sports owner. There's Ted Leonsis, the person and his goals. And then there's Chinatown, and there's Alexandria, right? And the DMV as a whole. So there are a lot of different points that I'm going to try and touch on. First and foremost, if they move, and I'm still fairly skeptical on if that's going to happen or not, because their statement was, we have the framework of an agreement. And as far as I know, not all the, not all the bells and whistles are done. Not all the, signatures are in place just yet. So I do think that there is still room for negotiation. But if they move, it is obviously a huge economic blow to the Chinatown area that has already suffered quite a bit during COVID, and even post-COVID, it hasn't quite come back. I think you bring up a very good point. DC is not the same DC we grew up in. It is different. I recognize that. However, when it comes to, I was talking to Matt Anderson. He's a men's soccer teammate of mine, good friend of mine. Shout out, Matt. Listens to the podcast. And we were talking about the Junkies saying that, hey, okay, they looked at the mock-ups of what the new arena would look like, and they're like, oh, it looks really nice, and you see the 30,000 jobs, you hear about that, and the economic impact for that area. And you have to realize, if you're listening to all that, those are merely projections. And how often do things actually turn out that way? That's almost never, so that's one. Two, this isn't just like any other business, which I know the Junkies were just sort of like, it's Ted's team. He could do what he wants. That is technically true. He can, and he might, right? But I do think that when it comes to sports ownership and how much it means to the people in the area, there is a degree of responsibility there and a degree of consideration that needs to be taken place. Now, I understand Ted's perspective. He wants the stadium revitalized. I would agree. I think the stadium isn't very good, right? And that's the tricky space with Mayor Bowser, how much public funding is going into this. And that is always a tricky thing when it comes to stadiums, right? I think for the District of Columbia, this isn't just some random place, right? This is the nation's capital. It's a very well-known city. It's very connected, and Chinatown is at the heart of it all, right? I think it is important to keep the team over there. It is important to maintain that connection with the actual District of Columbia. This does feel strange. Now, I'm going to be, 38 or something like that by the time that happens. I don't know where I'm going to be in life at that point. So personally, I don't know how much that's ultimately going to affect me, but for those that are, yeah, I know, kind of crazy, right? But for those that are
40.
Yeah. So you have to think about that, right? So that's the personal aspect as to where we will be.
Jesus.
But for those that are younger, for those that are really, connected to the city, there is that element of pride and joy that comes with having a team right in the heart of the city. It's so easy to get to the stadium. You get off the Chinatown Metro on 7th and F, you're there. And then you can do something before, you can do something after. It's great for the city to have. Now let's talk about Ted Leonsis as an owner. Sorry, I know this is a bit long-winded.
No, go.
He's not a good owner. In terms of, I don't think he's a bad dude. This is different from Dan Snyder, and he is lucky Dan Snyder has been the owner of the Washington Commanders, formerly football team, formerly Redskins, for as long as he was, because everyone had their pitchforks ready for him. And Ted's been very, very quietly in charge of two very mediocre teams. Now, the Caps, Alexander Ovechkin, brilliant. Sometimes you do luck into that player. Other owners have done the same thing. But look at the Wizards. Look at how poorly run they were and are, right? Ernie Grunfeld had a job for so much longer than he should have as GM, right? We got John Wall. We had Bradley Beal. We had Arenas before that. What did they do? Every team just about has been to a conference finals in the last 30 plus years. Wizards haven't, right? And especially when you keep a GM as long as you do, eventually there is the expectation you get to the conference finals, but he was still kept longer and longer and longer. Ted Leonsis was interested in the Nats. General consensus, fuck off. Did not want that, because for Ted, and this move sort of represents that if it were to go through, he's much more interested in having the shiny objects than he is in actually producing a winner. So from the sports ownership perspective, I would love if we had different ownership. Someone that actually wanted to win, someone that actually wanted to invest in the teams. I think he's much, much more interested in status and having it for that reason versus actually building a winner. So that makes me a bit more apathetic towards the entire move in general, because it's just sort of like who cares? We're not going to be good anyway. But it is really nice socially to be able to have it in the heart of DC, to bring people from around the DMV into DC. But that also requires winning teams. And Ted's not building those. So that's part of that's why I had to go all over the place with that.
No, I think that to me is that's the part that goes the most unsaid throughout this entire thing, which is that the idea that, like, Wizards tickets are not hard to get currently in its current form. I mean, me and you have talked about it, where it's like, where everybody was frustrated with the way the Wizards were. I was like, hey, there are a few things cheaper in DC to be able to go do than go to a fucking Wizards game and to go something else, right?
You said that for years.
I've said that for years. It was one of it's the only cheap thing you can really do downtown DC, right? But people still weren't doing it, at least not at the clip that they needed to, other than it being a cheap option. They weren't going for the winning product. I'll tell you this, if it's a winning fucking team, the 10 additional minutes it takes to fucking get to Potomac Yards is a much easier sell, because you're excited to fucking go. It's not an afterthought, or the office has free tickets, so I'm taking I'm grabbing one, or hey, Sean's in town, we want to go do something, so I'm gonna go do that. There are certain aspects of this that actually make it more convenient as far as the location go, if we're really breaking it down that way. But also what you said is something that I meant to touch on, which was the idea of, like, the public funds compared to private funds and what actually happens as far as the economic incentive to have these teams, right? When you're talking about the economic, the incentives basically come in two ways, right? It's what happens as far as people coming to the area, as far as what monies or dollars they might spend in the general vicinity to do stuff, right? Compared to also the tax revenue that's brought on the ticket sales themselves, right? So the ticket sales themselves, as far as the Wizards, that money, nothing. Like it's a drop in the fucking bucket if you're looking at like DC city fucking budget and what it is they're able to afford or not afford. It doesn't mean anything. The idea of what it'll do to the area itself, to me, is just the idea that you have to have is if Bob has his two sons and he wants to go see the Wizards play, is them moving to National Potomac Yards
right
enough for Bob to say, I'm not going to take my two sons there? So what else am I going to do on this Saturday night? I think that there needs to be some thinking outside the box as far as
so I think it's less about look, it's not that much further for some people. I get that, and ultimately, if the product's good, you will recognize all of that. I think it is just about the symbolism of having these teams in the city. We were even talking about the Washington Commanders coming back to DC, and that's a big deal. And that's a big conversation.
Shits about the Wizards of the Caps if that happens, right? So like if they could pull that off, wonderful. But there also comes down to a standpoint that I always thought that what they should do, which is what a lot of the cities that have the absolute best urban areas for the stadiums do, is kind of pocket them together in an area. Mm-hmm. To me, there's still a lot of real estate around that southwest area near where you're at.
I can speak to it.
Like if you go right across the Anacostia, there's nothing but land. And like the idea that like you could have the Commanders play there, you could have the Caps play there.
That's a good point.
Like to me, that would be an awesome area that you could build up and have these things. And let's say Penn Quarter, its central location, should be a wonderful place for low-income housing for people to be able to commute to their jobs within the city. Have the stadiums over there, and you can have this spot. You have what is it, the outdoor bar shit that they got over there near Nats Park? I forget the name of the.
I was just going to say the Navy Yard area, but like there's tons of stuff over there, right?
But like there's to me is like there's city planning in the sense of like that shit could work, right? But I never hear them talking about it in that way. It just feels as though people are trying to hold on these scraps of things that were. And
sure, I think that's a natural thing to do. I understand, and this is not a simple conversation. Just to be clear, I mean, now we're talking about public funding and what do we do? Right, exactly.
As long as we're not doing a Santa Clara thing, or we're not doing the thing where it's like, okay, or the Landover thing. Like that to me was like, you have completely undone because you're so far removed. But the thing that I want to always go back to when it comes to our Washington sports teams, and I get the symbolism as far as keeping them in the city. But what I'm trying to think about is the people. The people are what make the city. And there are a lot more people like me that can't afford to live there anymore and live in the suburbs of these areas and would love to go to the fucking events. But coming down to DC, coming into DC is a fucking headache. So like the idea of it even being a modicum simpler, the amount of people that live in Crystal City or Potomac Yards that commute into DC for work, that might have lived or been born in DC but live now across the fucking river, is a large number. If we want to solve all of it, I just say Virginia should give back the land. We should complete the fucking diamond.
Right. And it's an excellent point and part of the conversation. And it also must be said, as we move on to the Commanders here in just a moment, that Virginia is pressing really, really hard for this. So they don't have any pro sports teams.
They want to feel it.
Which is right. So it's important to note. And I think they're putting in what, $2 billion? Is that right? Like that was the number quoted? We're talking about $800 million to revitalize the current stadium over here versus $2 billion. Ted can fantasize about what it's going to look like, and Youngkin's doing anything and everything to try and make it happen. So it is very much a losing battle right now. And I think Virginia will end up, as I say it out loud, it seems more and more likely, but we'll see.
What's hilarious to me is I talked about the client that I have that's down in Penn Quarter. I have another client that is right there on Crystal Drive.
Oh, so they're probably loving it.
But that's the thing. If I'm looking at it from a personal small business standpoint, it's good for anybody depending on where you're fucking at, right? So it's like
we completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's that buttons that topic for the time being, and I'm sure there'll be more developments as we go. But now we got to go ahead and talk about football. So the Washington Commanders, who are having an absolutely wonderful season, as you all know, go to Los Angeles to a very, very nice stadium over there in SoFi to take on the 6-7 Los Angeles Rams. And so, K-Dot, looking at this Rams team, seems like they're two different ones. There's the one without Matt Stafford. There's the one with Matt Stafford. The one with Matt Stafford, pretty damn good at football. So they've won 3 of their last 4. They've beaten a good Cleveland Browns team. They played to the wire in Baltimore, and they've beaten the Cardinals. They beat the Seahawks recently, swept the Seahawks, actually, if I remember correctly. So what do you make of this LA Rams team as we're about to play them?
Well, you say the team with or without Matthew Stafford. I think they've played 1 game without Stafford.
Yeah. Or maybe 2. Maybe 2.
Is it 2? Or he gets hurt.
Well, so he doesn't play
the
right. So, and that's pretty typical. So like the game against the Packers, he did not play.
Gotcha.
20-3 loss.
Right. The Brett Rippon game.
Yeah, the Brett Rippon game.
Shout out to Rippon. Love your uncle. I think it's his uncle Mark Rippon, Washington quarterback that won us the last Super Bowl.
How about this? Since Stafford had the mental reset of missing the Packers game, let's package it that way. Winners of 3 of their last 4, and now they host the Commanders. How's that?
I dig it. I didn't mean to correct you.
No, but you're right. You're right. For some reason in my head, I was like, hey, he must have missed more than just the one. It felt like it.
No one's watched Rams games this year. So like I think that's the other thing is that, like, going into this season, the Rams were, I had a long future bet that they would have the worst record in football going in this year. And I think we talked about it in the season preview. We talked about it on the preview in the sense of like the amount of rookies that they were going to be starting this year, right? And how Sean McVay looked like he wanted to fucking leave at the end of last year. He had to kind of be convinced to come back. You thought they were going to be an absolute clusterfuck. But there is, if you want to know what this fucking Rams team is about, it's about great fucking coaching and guys knowing what they have to utilize and get the absolute best performance they can out of them. I'd be hard-pressed to say that the Washington Commanders team is absolutely more talented than the Rams team, in my opinion. If we're looking at, like, draft pick, position, things like, what do we know about the Rams? They trade every fucking draft pick to go get over-the-hill fucking free agents, and then when they were finally in a position to draft, they're all late-round draft picks. So, like, the idea of, like, if we're looking at a pure talent standpoint, yeah, I'd love to see what Sean McVay could do with our guys, right? But they turn these unknowns into knowns. Who the fuck knew what a Puka Nacua was before this season, right? They had no idea.
Real good
he's
player.
turned into a fucking household name. He sounds like an orca. That's the name of you're giving orca. Puka Nacua. But beyond that, it fucking kills it,
keep it together. That was good.
It's just it's awesome to see. They're so far outkicked their coverage on what it is they were supposed to be this year that it's legit. This is a team that is 4-0 against sub 500 teams. They've lost games this year, but not against a team with a winning record. Like they know they're getting the best out of what it is they have, and they're turning some guys with this experience that they're having this season. They have no real Super Bowl aspirations, but this is a hell of a learning year that you're turning unknowns into known quantities that you can then build off of. I adore what Sean McVay and his team do.
Hey, but by the way, no, maybe not Super Bowl aspirations. They're right in the thick of it in the playoff race,
which is nuts.
And can I read their next 3 games? So it's Commanders. They host the New Orleans Saints. They go to Tommy DeVito. Wow. They go to Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants, and then they play the 49ers. They play the 49ers week 18. And who knows where the 49ers are at? Right now, they're in a tight race, but if they're able to get a game or 2 ahead, who knows what happens to Philadelphia if this implosion continues? 2 blowout losses, but against very good competition, of course. Who knows? So, I mean, the Rams could come in real hot and have to take somebody on. Like, so this is for them and their context going into this game against us. Game on, season on. Yep. Let's go ahead and make this postseason. Yep. And so without further ado, why don't we go ahead and talk about Matt Stafford, that Rams offense against our Commanders defense. Just to triple down one more time, they played the Packers, then had a bye week. So Matt Stafford had 2 weeks to mentally reset, and then just that classic 1-point victory against the Seattle Seahawks, the blowout of the Cardinals, the blowout of the Browns, and then the overtime loss on the punt return to the Baltimore Ravens. So Matt Stafford having a pretty nice year. This Rams offense, of course, Sean McVay led. You got Cooper Kupp. You've got Puka Nacua, who was that orca or whale beforehand. Now he's a football player and a very, very good one. That catch against the Ravens, by the way, that diving catch, no gloves, K-Dot. No gloves. This man's old school. I mean, incredible. This offense. And Kyron Williams has been a revelation at running back for them. He has been spectacular. This is a largely healthy team, K-Dot. What do you make of this Rams offense going against a Commanders defense that saw Jamin Davis go on IR the other day?
Polar opposites. So you have the idea of what it is I said leading into this, which was you have a team that relies on coaching to get the absolute best out of their talent. You have a defense that is fully loaded in talent and can't get shit out of it at all, right? You're talking about the matchups here. You're talking about the Matt Staffordness of it. What I love about Matt Stafford, and you might hear me kind of gush about this team a bit just because I really like Sean McVay. I like Matt Stafford. They're an easy team to root for, man. Matt Stafford is the perfect extension of what Sean McVay tries to do. So, like, he has a quarterback that can execute at a high level the concepts and the ideas and getting guys involved and understanding the full long-term idea of what it is you're trying to do when it comes to these people. It truly works in this wonderful tandem, right? Which is giving these guys the opportunity to do what it is they need to do and feeding the guys that need to be fed in that offense. So if you're looking at I wanted to say St. Louis. If you're looking at LA's offense, yeah, you got the Orca. Yeah, you got Cooper Kupp. Yeah, you got Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams averaged 5 yards a fucking carry. Cooper Kupp, one of the best receivers in all of football when he gets the opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets a ton of fucking opportunities. They make sure they force feed that dude the rock because they know good things happen when we do it. Then you have Puka Nacua, who insane catches. Like there are catches that he makes every game. One or two of them, you're just like, God damn, where you come from? It happens all the time. Then even when those two guys aren't there, they got a guy like Demarcus Robinson will step up. They had from the tight end position, Tyler Higbee went down. Who's this guy? Davis Allen. You know him? No?
I had to look him up. He got picked up in my fantasy league, and I was like, who the fuck is D. Allen? And then, yeah, I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay. He's a guy.
4 receptions, 50 yards, and a tutty, right? So, like, the idea that, like, they just get the job done. And you're talking about a Washington secondary that gives up the highest quarterback rating to receivers than anybody in the league. And you've got receivers that absolutely can be at the most elite level at burning your ass. The matchup does not look favorable. The only thing that you can look at when it comes to Washington is the same way you talk about Matt Stafford's little rest siesta that came back in eyes in football mode, is that Washington's now had since the departure of Jack Del Rio. This is the longest break that they've had to be able to install what it is that they're trying to do on defense, which you're never going to rehaul a defense in the middle of the year. What you can do is kind of shore up some things, get the lingo right, try to get some things figured out. And look, the last game that we saw these Commanders play was against the Miami Dolphins. I'm not putting the LA Rams in Miami Dolphins category, right? Dolphins are the fucking Dolphins, but it didn't look good. So like the idea of like, this is a team in Washington. There's lost games that we should win. We've lost games badly that we should win. We're now at a point where I don't think anybody looks at anybody on the schedule and say it's a should win for us. We're just bad.
Yeah.
And this LA team, as you said, they're right in the thick of all this stuff. And I don't see a Sean McVay team being unprepared for that scenario. I just think it's going to be a long fucking day for that Washington defense.
You know, this is, you don't always necessarily know what's coming when you watch the Washington Commanders play or this franchise, because they'll occasionally do that sort of crazy thing where you go, okay, it doesn't make sense on paper, but they stepped up this week and played really, really well. When it comes to this defense, this is the most predictable it's been in quite some time. You know they're going to get railed. We all see it coming, and then it happens. So I agree with you, Kate. I don't see any way that we are slowing this Rams offense down, even with the bye week. Let's hope it simplifies. The goal here is give up more field goals than touchdowns. I'm not even asking for 3 and outs. Like, that's where we're at. It's just, hey, give up 3 instead of 7 and do that as much as you can. And then hope the offense can take advantage of the Rams defense. For the final 4 weeks, I'm looking for John Allen to be a leader. He's talked about legacy and playing for the name on the back of his jersey. He's beginning to go with like, this is what I want to be. It's no longer the we thing. It's just, hey, this is my job. I play for legacy. Other people play for fame, for money, stuff like that. I'm playing for myself. Totally fine. Just lead by example. Continue to do so. And then Emmanuel Forbes. Can he continue to progress? Can he progress? maybe not even continue, depending on your perspective of the guy. And then Quan Martin, it's time to play some of the younger guys. This is, at this point, a lost season from a postseason standpoint, and very much a can the younger guys improve as we look forward to the next season. Any final thoughts before we switch sides of the ball?
Nope, you've summed it up completely.
All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and talk about Sam Howell and the Commanders offense against this LA Rams defense. Now, Sam Howell been in a bit of a slump recently. So there was that moment early on where, hey, we're 2-0. Okay, we play the Bills. Not good. Young guy, 4th career start, whatever. Then we play Philly. Plays really well. So he had some ups and downs, but more ups than downs. These last 2-3 weeks, quite a few downs. K-Dot, for the offense, before we even touch the Rams defense, for the offense, what are you hoping to see this week?
I actually say I think Sam Howell's had more bad games than good games. If we're really calling it what it is, like if we were to go line by line, that's not a huge criticism of him, because I do think that there's a lot more at stake than just what he's doing, and he is got pretty much a fucking rookie. So you take it with a grain of salt. Rams defense, fairly unheralded, right? There's one guy who everybody knows, and Aaron Donald. Beyond that, there's a bunch of guys that pretty much nobody knows. This is where it comes into what we talk about as far as the amount of rookies that they start, the amount of unheralded dudes they start. I was looking through this list, like I have the roster up right now of the guys that they have on defense, and I swear, man, if you put a gun to my head, if you put a gun to my mother's head and said, name 5 defensive players for the Rams, Mama, I love you. I will see you in the next life. I don't what the fuck we do. But that's the thing. They're still getting shit done, right? So this is a middle of the pack defense. You can score, you can throw the ball and whatever, but they also get a lot of turnovers. I think of all the games they've had this year, they had 4 games without a turnover, and it's gotten hotter. They even picked off Lamar Jackson last week. Now, Lamar did get off 300 yards, and they had 100 yards on the ground, right? But yeah, it's the Ravens. So
correct. There's a difference.
There's a difference. There's a bit of a difference. There's level of fucking offenses go. Yeah, if we're looking at the skid that Sam Howell and the Washington offense has gone through, this would be one of those matchups that we were looking at the first quarter of the season and be like, all right, maybe this will be a bit of a shootout. We can see whether or not we can be on top of this, right? But because of the fact that what our offense has looked like, which is just inconsistent as fuck, is this week going to be a week that we give up sacks? Is this week going to be a week that we give up a bunch of turnovers? Is this week going to be a week that we give up a bunch of penalties? Is this week one of the weeks where all those things happen all at once? We don't know. We just usually know one of those bad things is going to rear its ugly head, and this is not a team in which you can allow that to happen, because I don't think you're going to be able to recover from what it is the offense is pouring down on you, right? So, I don't have a lot of shit on the X's and O's stuff other than knowing that there are a few opportunities, and I just want to know what Washington's offense looks like, and are we ever going to be in a position where we're dictating offense to the defense compared to just taking what it is in existence?
Fair enough. And I'm not even looking at the X's and O's at all. I mean, so I think I very blatantly hinted at it in the last segment where we were talking about the Commanders defense, what I want to see from them for the final 4 games as we move on to the next season. Same sort of deal here. I want to be able to see Terry McLaurin get a little more than just cardio this time around, right? Not just the 3 targets for 0 catches, 0 yards. I want to see him involved and excited like we used to see with Heineke, who would just throw up the jump ball and, Terry happened to come down with it. So for the next 4 games, I want to be able to see a leader on offense. I do believe Terry is of that mold to be able to do so. I'd like to see Jahan Dotson wake up, right? And be able to have good games. He was very good last year. Think about that rookie year he had, right? And you think about the amount we have thrown the ball. It is shocking how poor a statistical season he's had, right? Just objectively speaking, we throw the ball more than anybody else. And Jahan's having a down year despite that. So want to see some from him. Yes, a lot of this is coaching, but at a certain point as a player, take personal responsibility and make a fucking play. If you're open, it'll happen. So we need to see that as well. Well, I'll get to you in a moment, Kate, out there. But then also, Brian Robinson probably not going to play this week. Antonio Gibson, good opportunity here. Chris Rodriguez, good opportunity here. What else do we have at that running back position? So curious to see how that all goes. And then please just protect Sam. Sam, get rid of it early. just the little things that show progress moving forward, looking at 2024. What did you want to say on the subject of make a play with Jahan Dotson there?
I'm a Pisces and I'm an empath. I'm a
Thanks for
very
the context.
emotionally
Please continue.
linked person. Did you watch the Chargers Raiders game last night?
I actually did not. I saw the score and was like, holy fuck.
Oh, Brian Robinson is officially out. Just
breaking news here at District Divided.
Yeah. When I was watching the Chargers last night, there's a part of me that looked at them, and I was looking to the eyes and the souls of those guys that were sitting there, that were standing there playing the game. I was like, I've seen that before. I've seen glimpses of that before. And I thought about it. I'm like, that's my Commanders. They are checked the fuck out. Like, that's when you see a team that is just like, dude, just stop. When people were giving Montez Sweat shit last few weeks in the media. He said something, I think it was last week, where he said that the difference here compared to where he was.
Oh, this was
in Washington. Yep. It felt like we were just waiting for the season to end. And I challenge anyone to say that when you're watching these games fairly recently, other than a couple guys, Sam Howell, I never think that he's not trying his ass off. I never think
he's playing to be a starting QB in this league.
100%.
Yeah, he knows.
But there are certain times where you start seeing it unravel, and it's just like, I think these guys just want to get the fuck out of here. Like, that's the vibe. I don't expect to see it the rest of the season. The same way that I think the Chargers might play lights out next week because Brandon Staley's finally gone. I think they're out on everybody. I think they're out on Bieniemy. I think they're out on Rivera. I think they're out on all of it. New ownership, new head coach. Am I going to be here? Am I not? I don't even really care at this point. Just let's move on. I think that's the vibe that I'm getting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and it's going to be, that's why I'm curious about the bye week. Was it simply a nothing week? Was this a chance to reset? Was it a chance to change the mindset? I don't know.
But I don't blame
probably not. But let's see what ends up happening over here. Again, I'm just looking for progress. I'm looking for people that are interested in being here next season. That is the lens in which I'm watching these games, right? I would love to root for a win, but let's be real. We could use the better draft position with a new general manager and a new head coach and stuff like that. So if we lose, it's not the end of the world, so long as I'm seeing things that look like we can build on.
Let me ask you this, though.
Sure.
There's a part of me that still believes in a lot of times. I think we've reached a season where the guys are starting to feel down themselves, because I really do think the coaching and the schemes have been, not even necessarily the scheme, but like the coaching overall, because a lot of it's game flow. It's not necessarily the scheme. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That even if you put forth 100% effort, it's for naught.
Sure. If you're being put in positions like that, and actually to your point, K-Dot, the numbers since Montez Sweat, and I sent this tweet to you, we talked about it a little bit, the numbers for the Chicago Bears defense since Montez Sweat has arrived there, they are top 5 in that time period. Right. Okay. So then you look at that. Is it just Montez? Like, it's probably coaching. Then you look at Emmanuel Forbes and his progress compared to Christian Gonzalez. He only played the 4 games, but he looks great for New England. Deonte Banks in New York. He goes on IG Live after beating us and goes, these guys passed on me. Like, local guy, Maryland. Right. And then you even look at Joey Porter Jr. Going to Pittsburgh. All 3 corners have been better than Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes, we're still talking about struggling, and we're talking about show progress. So it all points to coaching, to your point.
I just think you're at a particular point where I would even say, from a human standpoint, if we were to put ourselves in their shoes, a lot of it would be, I just want to get out of here healthy for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get out of here healthy for next year, because like, I've been trying my ass off and we're getting our asses whooped. Yeah. I've been putting forth maximum effort. We're still getting our asses whooped. This isn't working. And I just want to make it here unscathed so I can continue my career.
And if our team is truly as talented as you and I believe it is, then it has to be coaching, right? Because if we're that talented and we're putting 100% effort in, well, then what's the problem? Right? So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. And I do think that, again, I'd be very curious to see what happened this bye week. And I think it will reflect in this game, especially the very first game after.
I think it'll feel doubly bad when they don't.
I would completely agree with that. If it looks piss poor, then you have to wonder, right? What the heck happened during the bye week? Because there's still something to play for, right? Not necessarily the postseason, but for your own career, for your own job. And this coaches too, right? So like, I would hope that it was a reflective period. We don't know. We'll find out on Sunday. We'll get a look into that. And so now we jump over to the predictions, where the Rams are 6.5-point favorites at home against us. Kickoff is at 4:05 p.m. Eastern this time, so just a heads up on that. And KDOT over under is 50.5. So as always, I need a score, I need a winner, I need a player of the game.
24-10 Rams. Puka Nacua.
Okay. I'm going to go 31-14. No, 17. Give us a field goal. 31-17 Rams. I do think that this is one of those games where out the gates, the Rams are a little hot. I think we start to come back a little bit, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. We got ourselves a game. Maybe it's 17-14 or something like that. And then they begin to pull away. And it's going to end up being Matt Stafford as player of the game, because I think Cooper and Puka, the Orca, they're going to do a fabulous job together. I think it's not just going to be one guy that's eating. I think both of them are going to look really good. And that's Matt Stafford doing his thing. So that's where I'm at. We both agree, though. The Rams by 2 scores. So let's see what ends up happening. I don't even know that I hope we're wrong, to be honest. It's just been a tough season. It's been a very, very tough season.
Look, I'm not a tanker. I don't believe in it necessarily, but I'm starting to look at the draft picks positions, and New York with Tommy DeVito might be winning some more games. Chicago looked kind of feisty. Things can kind of go our way if we want to. If what you're looking for is a high draft pick, we could win this game, but I think if we do, it falls under the category of anything happens on any given Sunday.
Fair enough. All right. And now we go over to the comment mailbag. And I want to begin by saying, Vindo, apologies. There was actually a comment from Vindo 2 weeks ago. It was just on a different video, so I missed it. So apologies to you, Vindo. Right, appreciate you, OG. And here's how the comment goes. Thoughts, Commanders owner Josh Harris. This is a quote. It's a long journey. There are no shortcuts to the top. There are shortcuts to the middle. You want to be 8-8? I can get you there quickly. 8-1, no problem. You want to be great. There are no shortcuts. What do you make of that comment from owner Josh Harris?
I think that's true. I mean, I think people have these unrealistic expectations because of some of the hot starts that some of these coaches have had in certain areas. But when you look at it overall, there are a few exceptions to the rule. Sean McVay and what he had in LA, stuff like that. But after a year or two of like really shining, they never really make it to the Super Bowl level, and then they suck after a while. So like there is an idea of you have to build the right way. And I'm looking at organizations or franchises that build the right way. I'm looking at Kansas City. I'm looking at New England when they had Tom Brady. I'm looking at San Francisco. I'm looking
at what they built.
You have to build right thoroughly, have a long-term game plan that you stick to, and a culture that you stick to, an idea. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Yep. Like if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, right? What do you think about those teams? It's stability. They don't change head coaches every fucking year. They don't change GMs every fucking year. And when you see a dude in the draft, you're like, that's a Steeler guy. That's a Ravens guy. That's a dude that I think that Kyle Shanahan might like. You got to build that.
Well, and I think it can also happen quickly. So this idea that you can't be, so great. That's a loaded term, but I do think you can quickly become a contender in the NFL. In terms of making the postseason pretty quickly if you hire the right general manager and the right coach, right? If you talk about establishing an identity, well, even some of these other teams, like I personally have faith in Mike McDaniel, right? As a coach, I think when we look at their identity, it's now speed-based, and he's picking up defensive players that he knows are stars because he goes, look, I don't know a whole lot about the defensive side of things. That's where I think he's very smart. Like, I don't know a whole lot about the defensive side of things. I'm going to let them take care of it, and I'm going to give them shiny toys to play with, and they'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. My offense, I know works, and I know is predicated on speed, and we knew it when we were going against them in our last game. Very, very good. Very Tyreek dependent, as we found out in that Tennessee game. But you expect them to be in the playoffs just about every season at this point, and he's just been there.
I'm not going that far. So, like, okay. I love Mike McDaniels. I love what they're doing in Miami. Mm-hmm. What I want for Washington are Super Bowl berths. And if I'm looking at the teams that get there,
that's where we'll get to great.
That's where I'm looking at. Yeah.
Okay. No, I like your interpretation of it a lot more. Then we go over to Tony. Shout out, Tony. Ron cannot blame anyone but himself for this team's inability to compete. He built this mid team and he's getting what he deserves in his last year. No more lucky breaks from bad teams. I think that's very well said. I think we have had some very lucky breaks in the past, and eventually your luck runs out when you have a mid team, and that's where we're at. He cannot blame anybody but himself. He brought in Del Rio. He's brought in Martin Mayhew, Marty Herney, his Carolina Panthers guys. Like, he has done it. And here we are. This time there was no Cam Newton to save him. Moving on to Spencer Brudig. Shout out Spencer, former co-host of the show. Riverboat Ron is a legend. Keep in mind, this man's a troll. Let the man gamble. All right, and he has, and it's not going particularly well. Earl Bruce replies, "Ha! Appreciate that."
What is he gambling on? Go fish? Like,
yeah, probably will soon enough, right? And then we go to my generic name-o, aka Matt Regan, another former co-host of the show. Lion emoji, eyes emoji. We get that quite frequently from him. This was just after our last game. We had a bye week, so that was when the Lions went to New Orleans, 133-28. And then more recently lost to the Montez Sweat-led Chicago Bears 28-13. Falling apart. Yeah. I'm starting to get a bit worried about the Lions, K-Dot.
I'm already there. I'm there. I'm there. I'm worried about them.
I mean, they'll host a playoff game, but boy, oh boy.
Are they
going to play this Rams team?
Well, this week for them is huge. The Broncos game.
Yep.
You got a Broncos team that I fucking hate, and they're ascending for some Lord knows why. And then you got,
by the way, it's a Saturday game.
Yeah, where we got 3 games on Saturday.
Yeah.
More money for me to lose. All right.
Then we go over to Blood Clot. Shout out Blood Clot. Going back to the Dolphins game, they did break a record against us. I knew our team wouldn't let us down without another opponent record. Quoted from CBS Sports. Hill totaled 157 receiving yards and 2 touchdown grabs, one for 78 yards and another for 60 yards. Jesus. On 5 catches in a 45-15 victory. That gives Hill his 5th game with over 150 receiving yards and at least a touchdown in 2023, breaking the NFL single season record for the most such games. Hill broke a 5-way tie for this record, which included Hall of Famers Lance Allworth, 4 such games in 1965, and Don Maynard, 4 such games in 1968. I got to say, that is impressive to do in 1965 and 1968. So first off, shout out to there's a reason they're Hall of Famers. That's incredible.
My fantasy team, Waddle and Hill put up 43 or 44 points. I was happy.
Yeah, you were certainly happy. Shout out Blood Clot, appreciate that. And then we go to this is get out. We put a short out called "The Washington Commanders Are Fine at Linebacker." That's the title of it.
Oh,
and so 3 days ago, John Jarnack, shout out, appreciate it. We need linebackers, period. Turns out he's right. We always get attacked in the middle. Tight ends eat Washington up. You have D- linebackers. They are terrible. And face it, we got one good safety, Curl, who can help with the run and tight ends, but then they hit us deep, and our cornerbacks are just not that good. Trust me, my man Harris and Magic got a lot of work to do. Got to agree with that. There's not a whole lot of linebacker depth there, K-Dot. We do have Cam Curl, who is a free agent this coming off season. Hopefully we bring him back. I would like to bring him back. Maintain some stability, like you talk about, having some core pieces that stick around for a while, part of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could certainly use some linebacker help. We could certainly use some help in a lot of places.
Yeah, but yes. There are pockets of room for opportunity when it comes to linebacker, especially if you're looking at the speed standpoint of linebacker.
Right.
That being said, we also schematically don't do a lot with linebackers compared to what it is they do as far as dropping, as far as what they do with defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
The scheme is shit. I don't know. I'd like a linebacker to run a more traditional 4-3 defense if that's what we're going to do, and have somebody that can roam better. I think that makes sense, right? But if you're looking at it from what the Jack Del Rio defense has been, there is less of, and I don't know if that's because he thinks that there's a gap as far as what happens at linebacker, right? But also I can't properly judge who's truly bad on this team because of how much I think the coaching sucks.
Yeah, well, fair enough. And that's going to conclude the comment mailbag. And now we're about to begin after the pod. But before that, this was District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast that dabbled into the potential move of the Wizards and Capitals in 2028 to Potomac Yards in Alexandria. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. Thank you guys so much for listening, as you always do. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and comment as you always do. And K-Dot,
share this shit.
Please do. Please share this shit, because we really don't advertise this as much as we should. So we are depending on you guys to do it for us. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. After the pod begins right now. K-Dot, what are your thoughts on our new defensive coordinator being let go yesterday by the LA Chargers?
Keep him the fuck away from us. Look, I like Brandon Staley. I think he's a fairly smart dude.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he was rebel because of what he could do defensively. What happened in LA was a goddamn colossal fucking failure.
It was a disaster.
And I don't know. You talk about like the Commanders stink, the Redskins stink, the Dan Snyder stink on things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go see if he's got it figured out somewhere else. I don't want that experiment here. Like, I don't know how poorly that went. And the thing is, like, there was a point last night in that game where he actually gave an interview as he was going to the locker room at halftime. And I thought that was one of the bravest things I've ever seen a head coach do.
Well, what do you even say? Is it 49-0? 42-0?
He just said we definitely not played well enough, blah blah blah, the platitudes and stuff. But the idea that he would even do that, to me, I respected it to some weird degree. But I could then also look at the way that he looked on that sideline and the way the players looked in the game and on the sideline and be like, them boys can't wait to get rid of your ass.
I would have been such a sarcastic asshole if I were to be interviewed. I'd be like, actually, I want this interview. Hey, what do you think is going on? You're down 42-0. Honestly, I think we're playing great. Like, this is maybe the best game we played all year.
So you want to never be allowed in Los Angeles ever again.
Yeah, why not? Let me burn a bridge. You know me, I love to burn a good bridge. Like, just for the bit in that moment. Oh, us? We were spectacular. Yeah, the score doesn't reflect it, but we were brilliant out there. And I'm going to tell the guys at halftime, I've never seen them play quite like that before.
You want Khalil Mack to shank you. That's what you want. You're saying some bullshit like that. Yeah, I could not believe what I saw last night. I watched that entire game, every fucking play.
Really?
It was
what parlay did you have?
A car wreck. Oh, a ton of them. But they crushed. They crushed. Like, if you didn't win last night, I don't know what the fuck you were doing betting wise. Because like I guess you were betting on Chargers players. But I guess if you had a Raider, you were straight. Like if you had any Raider, you were pretty content.
I had Devontae in our league. Did well.
Yeah, no, it was nuts. But it was fucking nuts.
Yeah. Well, so the reason I brought up Brandon Staley as a potential defensive coordinator is I think you'll probably get a little bit of noise there in that regard, because the 1 year he was, and it's important to note it was only 1 year, right? The 1 year he was a defensive coordinator, their rankings were very, very good for the LA Rams. So I imagine that his name will be floated. So just wanted to get ahead of it and say, like, hey, we talked about it the moment he got fired. So there you go.
All right. While we're on the pod, hang on. Let's do this.
Okay.
Brandon Staley reference.
Boop, boop. I'm on it. I'm looking at it
right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was defensive coordinator for LA in 2020.
First in yards, first in points, third in rushing defense, first in passing defense. So like the ranks are good, but it was only the 1 year. So you don't know. It's too hard to tell whether that was him, right? So it's not like sustained. It makes it tricky.
Makes it tricky also compared to how many, like, they brought in Jalen Ramsey. They had
right.
Aaron
That's exactly
Donald.
it, right?
They had Leonard Floyd. Like, there was a lot of dudes. That was the thing with the Rams team, is that they, like, said, fuck draft capital. We're just going to get guys. And they went out and did it and had massive success. But it's like, if you have an Aaron Donald and a Jalen Ramsey on the same team.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. And Darius Williams was like a sneaky corner that was also very, very good for that. Like, they had They had guys.
That's some guys, right? Leonard Floyd looked like beast. Taylor Rattler, Bruce. They got some guys in there. So it's like yeah, I don't know. It's every once in a while there'd be some like nerdy white dude that people like, oh my God, he's a genius. Because they're trying to follow the Sean McVay.
I completely agree.
Kyle Shanahan thing. It's like, nah, you're not it. That's not it.
Yeah, I mean, all you had to do was look in our building. Who else was hanging out with these guys? Just make them a head coach. Seems to work.
But there's also what we were talking about on the pod as far as like getting to 8-8-1, what Josh Harris was saying, right?
Yeah.
Those comment. You get a lot of those teams that think they have the next hot shot. The hot shot comes in, he installs his new plan and this, that, and the other, right? They hit that, holy shit, these dudes are good year 1, year 2. They're right around playoff time. And then 2 years later, they're on their asses looking for a
right
job somewhere else. What it takes to be sustained takes something special. We could talk about all the dudes that came through Washington as far as the assistant coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
McVay and Shanahan stand above them.
Yeah. Oh, that's not normal. And it's also important to note that it's not like you're looking for the next McVay or Shanahan.
But it's not even that. It's the all the guys. So Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, all those dudes, they haven't done anything yet.
That's fair.
They haven't done anything. They're cool. Yeah, there's certain aspects of their offenses, whatever, that look pretty dope. They haven't done anything.
I like Daboll in New York, though.
I like Daboll in New York too. But I even look, if we're really looking at it, what is the standard for success? It's Super Bowls, right? I think Kyle Shanahan is maybe the best coaching mind in football right now. He is yet to win a Super Bowl.
Right. It's not easy to do. You're right.
Not saying it is, right? But the fact is he hasn't done it.
Well,
am I saying that his recipe is not the right one to get you to those opportunities? Absolutely. And they have had absolute piss poor shit fucking god awful luck in certain portions of time, right? Yeah. Like I would trade so much to have the 49ers team be the Commanders. But
and that's the difference sort of between the like, and this is where I really liked your definition of great versus mine, because I was talking about being a contender you can do kind of quickly. But if you really want to win a Super Bowl, right? Like how long has Dallas with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, that defense, like been around here, right? Around here and then not quite made it over the hump? Or San Francisco with that Monstars roster of theirs not getting over the hump just yet still. Right. So it's an excellent point if we want to get to that. And then, but that's an honest reflection on Sam Howell also, right? Is he going to be a guy that is capable of winning in the postseason? You got to figure that out.
I'm not even putting that much on him. Like
no, but what I'm saying is it's ultimately going to be a question when you're looking at being a Super Bowl level team. Like you do need that QB. Whether it's fair or unfair to Brock Purdy, that is the conversation.
Oh, but I think Brock Purdy's enough.
I think he is too. But more than what I'm saying is I think he's a baller. Like in terms of Brady said it to Josh Allen, in terms of risk mitigation, that is your job as a quarterback, is risk mitigation. I think Brock Purdy is fabulous at it. He's got good ball placement. He's putting people open into space and lets them do their thing. What's the problem with that? So I think he fits what they want to do. But they also have the best roster in the world. So
I think you're downplaying. He takes shots. He takes a lot of shots.
No, yeah. I'm not saying it's all dink and dunk. He has a nice deep ball. He doesn't use it that often. Don't get me wrong.
He uses it quite a bit. If you look at his area, if you look at his air, there's a Brock Purdy narrative that I've been trying to fight. Is the and I've said it here on this pod when we've talked about him in season previews and all kinds of stuff. And I've talked about it specifically when it comes to the offensive coaching here in Washington, right? Especially last year when it came to the Taylor Heineke stuff. And what I was saying was that like when Jimmy G was the quarterback in San Francisco, they did not throw the ball far. They just didn't. And what you're seeing is Jimmy G in Vegas, who's lost his job to fucking Aiden O'Connell, is the fact that he can't throw deep. It's just not, he can't do it. The thing that was the idea of the Kyle Shanahan offense and what it is people think about, like Christian McCaffrey's there, Deebo Samuel's there, this, that, and the other, right? You think about Yak. Everyone thinks about Yak. And there's an idea that like you get the ball in their hands really, really quick and then they make things happen beyond that, right? And when you bring in a rookie Mr. Irrelevant in, there was an idea that, okay, they're going to double down on what they did with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. Every single metric that they had, he quadrupled his number of deep fucking balls. Like, it was nuts.
All I'm saying is, to the point of risk mitigation, he's taking what the defense is giving him most of the time. When he does choose to take the deep shot, it's typically really good. Like, he has a really good deep ball, and he does use it. All I'm saying is that from the risk mitigation standpoint, from that system standpoint, he's doing what's asked of him beautifully. Yeah, I think Brock Purdy's that guy.
I don't think it's, but the risk mitigation thing is just the decision making that you have and how it is you can place a fucking football.
Yeah.
Like, that to me
he places it very well.
That's my thing. It's like, so like, I don't want risk mitigation to sound like game manager, which is what it feels like. There's a tinge of that when people talk about Brock Purdy, is that there's a
game manager is a hidden, you cannot throw the ball downfield. That's what that is.
Well, Cam Newton, I don't know if you saw the Cam Newton
who
thing.
is described as a game manager that actually throws a good deep ball.
So I don't know if you listen to Cam Newton's podcast or whatever.
I didn't. I bookmarked this 10-minute clip he put out. I'm really want to watch it. This is exactly
what it is.
I really want to watch it. Yeah.
He tries to explain in his mind the difference between a game manager and he uses a word for it. It's like game specialist or something, right? Is it how many guys at the quarterback position will put the team on their back and take them to the promised land compared to playing within the confines of the system. And he said Tom Brady was one of those guys. He said Peyton Manning was one of those. Not put the team on the back, game managers. He said Peyton and Tom were just great game managers. I think what he's looking at is like, I'm Cam Newton, I put the team on my back. Which I think is true to some degree.
We know it for sure. We have Rivera as our coach. It is definitely true. Who is he throwing to that season?
Who? Cam?
Yeah.
Steve Smith was still there.
It was Ted Ginn Jr., dude.
It was Ted.
Like, what? Yeah, I mean, that's what was happening.
Got it. But here's the thing with here's this game man. Here's this game specialist thing, the Superman thing, right?
Yeah.
If I look at the quarterbacks that were the most Superman in the sense of like what it is they brought to an offense and being the pillar of that offense, right? I'd look at in the last 20 years, I'd probably name 3 guys above all other guys.
Okay.
Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick.
Those were exactly the 3 names I had. Well, you could throw Mahomes in there too.
0 Super Bowls.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, that's why you don't have Mahomes in there. Fair enough.
Right? That's what, like, why do I give a fuck? Like, I don't care. Put the team on your back all you fucking want to. It don't mean shit. If you can't have a system,
okay. But the reason they had to put the team on their back is because you look at the roster, and it's just that's the other part of it.
But I think it's jealousy. I think what people cannot ding people for is who you play with, because there's what we don't understand.
I see the point you're making now. Okay,
like Joe Montana had Jerry Rice, he had Roger Craig.
To be clear, I'm on your side of this Brock Purdy thing. Okay, I'm just saying the general.
I'm just extremely defensive of Brock.
I love Brock Purdy. The general criticism about the San Francisco team, because this is all rooted in the Brock Purdy MVP discussion, right?
Yes.
Is that he cannot be MVP because of his teammates being so good.
I
right?
think he's 3rd.
Okay. There you go. But that is the discussion around him.
Yes.
I push back on it. I'm on your side of things.
Okay. My eyes started twitching.
I'm on your side. I was just explaining what the general perception is.
Yeah, well, fuck the general perception. Fuck them assholes, all right?
The overall point we were making, this roots all the way back to you need to make sure you have your quarterback to be a consistent contender.
You got to build a team. So, like, you got to build a team.
But if you have, okay, but in the case
the quarterback is always the last piece of the puzzle. The quarterback to me is the last piece of the puzzle.
That's true.
I know you don't. I know. And this is what's so fucking frustrating. My litmus, what I look at as far as the bar for what sustained success means in this league, it starts at the team. You got to build the team. You got to have.
So it starts at the general manager.
Right.
Okay. We're on the same page.
To build, it has to have core.
Yeah, you can't have a QB and incompetence around him. I agree.
Right. But
so
the
general
idea
manager,
is that when you have someone special at quarterback, when you have the dude that understands risk management perfectly, when you got the dude that can play, then you're like, shit, we're now a dynasty.
I think we're at the. I think we are arguing the same thing. I started here, you started here, or I started here, you started here, but we agree.
Bring your goddamn energy level up, Ahmed.
Oh, mama.
It's Kansas City. Alex Smith was damn good in Kansas City. He was fucking awesome.
They
right?
had Andy Reid.
And Andy Reid, they built up that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They did what they needed. And then
they sat Mahomes a year.
Sat Mahomes a year. And then all of a sudden, they're like, it's Mahomes' kid. We think we might have like the guy. Not a guy, the guy. It's like, let's put him in there. All right, we're going to be in a Super Bowl every fucking year. You're Baltimore Ravens. Okay. Let's build the culture and the team. And then we'll have Super Bowl bursts with Trent Dilfer, with Joe fucking Flacco. Like,
this is an excellent point.
Like, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the playoffs every fucking year, even before Roethlisberger.
And now, they're in that 8-1 category.
Cool, but here's the thing: you build that ground floor,
right? That is their floor.
And then when you get a guy,
I love how excited
you're like,
you are.
oh shit, we gotta do.
I need to cut this up into shorts.
San Francisco. Look, Jimmy G, we're in the fucking NFC Championship game every goddamn year. Book that shit. Holy shit, this Brock Purdy kid is actually throw the ball down. We gotta do.
There's also a narrative that he's not good in the playoffs, which is really weird.
He got hurt.
No, but even the very first start he had, he played well.
Yeah, and also, he was Mr. Irrelevant in his first fucking year, and he barely had games.
He's got ice. He's got ice in his veins. I'm on your side. I am on your side. GM,
build the
coach,
team.
That helps build the team.
Right.
Because the GM and the coach will establish your identity.
Right.
You need a good owner for that. I believe we have one. And from there, yes, you can build a team, get the QB. But I'm thinking if you have GM and coach and you get the QB first, it doesn't make a difference. Like, you can get either the team or the QB. And then so long as you have that structure, you will be fine. So GM and head coach are the most important things.
I think the other part about it, when you look at the quarterback thing, is a lot of the teams that end up drafting like your future Hall of Famer, the guys that we talk about, all greats, they had a core fundamental squad there. They usually had a injury-plagued, terrible season that put them in a position to draft that guy. Peyton Manning in the fucking Colts, like they had a solid team in the fucking 90s before Manning. Then it went disastrously.
But then I think you look at the other side, right? Like, okay, so the Bengals, for example, they've actually overcome a ton. But Joe Burrow was so good, he gets hurt. They get Jamar Chase. Like, so that's rare. I want to be abundantly clear.
Also, the Bengals don't have a Super Bowl, and they've only been good for 3-4 years.
They've been to one. So,
but is that our barometer for what it is? We have sat here in the DC area for 30-something years.
Right.
When a team that's supposed to be perennially great. Our head coach, the greatest coach in the history of our franchise is Joe Gibbs, right? What makes Joe Gibbs so fucking great? He went to 3 Super Bowls with 3 completely different quarterbacks, not one of which will sniff the Hall of Fame.
That's fair. I completely agree with you.
Your team.
God damn it. This is such a good conversation. Okay. We are against the hard stop because we need to we're not going to release on time.
No shit, yeah.
Maybe we just do a separate episode where we talk about building the team and we just go back and forth about, because this is great. Your eye was twitching. That's great content.
I just think the barometer, like, it's when who asked the question? Who asked that question in the comment mailbag?
Which question?
The one about 8-1.
That was Vindo.
Vindo, love you for that one.
It was a great question.
But I think that the difference is, and I'm not wholesale criticizing you. I'm just saying that the reason I'm so emotional about it, or the reason I'm so loud about it, not really emotional, just loud.
You're deeply emotional about it. Please continue.
Probably. I'm still twitching. When you heard that question, and when I heard that question, our goalposts were not the same.
They were not.
I don't want to be a flash in the pan. I want to be Baltimore. I want to be Pittsburgh. I want to be I want to be one of the topper echelon franchises that have coaches that last decades plus, that we know they have a system that works.
GM, coach.
That's what I want. I don't give a fuck about being in one.
So then you know what we do? We probably release episodes where we start going through GM candidates, head coaching candidates. We go from there. That we should do.
Should we do it before the season ends?
Yes. Who cares? It's our show. Do what we want. Fair. Let's get ahead of it.
I want to get excited about draft stuff because I gotta.
But we don't know what we want yet if we don't have the GM or the. We will talk. We will see you guys later.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.